let's go the other side of Manchester.
Okay.
So I was a huge hater in United's window.
The summer window.
The summer window.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I rated Mount as my worst transfer of the summer. I didn't think Højlund was the answer because he could be the long-term answer, but they
It's
needed
a lot of money to spend on a guy who had 4 Serie A goals last year.
and they needed someone now, and he was never going to be the answer. Everyone was like, when he scored those couple champions, they were like, he's here. Still hasn't scored in the Prem. Anyway, at the time of recording this, but I'd take a bet that he has.
I think it's a good bet.
So, starting at United, I'm going to start at center back.
Okay.
Because they need a center back. I put Gahey from Palace or Braithwaite from Everton.
Those would be both great signings. Braithwaite's a player.
So Everton, with the point deduction, is actually playing well enough to where I don't truly
Like, they're
think
safe already.
Yeah, they're not in the relegation battle. So I do think that Braithwaite, I think you could get a price tag for him right now, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to
Yeah, I mean, I think him and Gahey both would be great signings for them. I put, as far as center back goes, I put John Clare Todibo.
Oh, okay. There we go.
My problem with maybe Braithwaite or Gahey, and I don't know, I think I'm right about this, but I think they both prefer to play at left center back.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
I'm 99% sure about that. I mean, that is where they play mostly. I don't know what their actual preference is, but that's where they play mostly for their teams. And so the question is, how does that work with Lisandro Martinez? Because the one sure thing to me in that back line, not even that I rate Lisandro Martinez that high, but the one sure thing to me, if Ten Hag is still in charge, is Lisandro Martinez, when he's healthy, is going to start every match at left center back.
So
then you need to find someone
might not be
right
the correct answer, but the answer. Yes.
That is the current situation. So that's why I went to Debo. He's very comfortable at either, but the fact that he's probably more comfortable at right center back works well in his favor.
I like that. We should preface this all with, we had a report probably a month ago that that United's not spending, which is insane.
Yeah,
to me, because if any team needs to spend, I feel like it's United.
It's just crazy because I understand why they're not spending. They've spent $500 million last year.
But it's United. You need to.
I agree.
Like, United isn't okay with a 6th place finish.
I agree.
That's not their standard.
All right. Oh yeah, you go your second one.
Second one is similar to Calvin Phillips. Sancho's leaving, right?
Yeah. So I actually, funny enough, my next two are both. One's an outgoing and one's a don't sign. The person they're most heavily rumored to.
Oh, I'm excited for the don't sign because I don't know who you're talking about. Sancho. I am such a big fan of Sancho's.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think's his best position? Because to me, Jadon Sancho has never been and will never be a true winger. He's not.
What do you think he is?
He's an attacking
like a 10?
8. He's an attacking 8. I think, he's not a 10.
Right. You think he would kind of play the Havertz role well?
Yes.
Okay.
But not that. My problem with that is I don't know if he has too much right side bias. Like, I don't think he could play it in the left half space. I think he's a very troubling footballer for modern day because he's not an inside forward and he's not a touchline winger. So then what's his position?
Yeah, I think you know what I think is, one, if they can't get Olise, and I think they need a right winger more than a left winger, but I think City, if they got their hands on Sancho back, would be insane.
Well, you know how there's this whole thing with Arteta just constantly is buying people to revive their careers. Right. I would fucking take Sancho in a heartbeat.
Me too. I mean,
first of all, if you get Sancho for £30 million, I'll take that risk. That's nothing.
You could also, if anything, they'll loan him out.
They won't loan him to a Premier League club. I don't think they'll loan him to a Premier League club.
That's probably true, but I feel like at this point, I feel like it's so toxic that they might just get rid of him.
It's a crazy situation. I mean, that kind of just brings me to what my second point was which just says begin the clear out. United is so toxic right now, and I'm saying this firsthand from what Arsenal's situation was when we were in this place, where it's
with Wenger.
Yeah, with Wenger through Emery, and then when Arteta came in, and it was okay, we've got all of these old players. Arteta stuck them together, found a way to win the FA Cup, and then was get the fuck out.
Right.
And just over the course of 3 windows, for basically nothing, he got rid of all of them, which is not good business, right? Everyone was how do you buy Aubameyang for $60 million and then just cut him? But it was necessary to change the locker room. Yeah. You need to change the locker room.
At some point, you just need to eat it.
And so, they need to get rid of Jadon Sancho. They need to get rid of Van de Beek. If they can get something from Martial before he leaves on a free, anything is better than nothing. Get these players out now. Maybe you're not great the rest of the year. You're probably not a Champions League team. You're not going to win any trophies.
Yeah.
You get your young players like Kobe Mino needs to be starting every fucking match. They have a lot of young players in that academy. If you can get them into, I'm not saying I even think Ten Hag's a great coach, but if you are backing Ten Hag, you need to get your players learning his system at a young age and into the team. And then by 18 months from now, when it's the start of the 25-26 season, which isn't what the United fans want to hear, if Ten Hag is still there,
they're in that position, they need to do a full rebuild.
They need to, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like Arsenal fans were actually, for the most part, like the non-super toxic ones, were very patient with Arteta, where it was like, we see that you're getting rid of all the old people, teaching all the new kids, and then in 4 or 5 years, we're going to be challenging for titles. If at this point we were not in a top 3 conversation, I would be fed up. But I had to go through 3 years of shit. And that's what United need to do. And it starts with this window, getting rid of dead weight. That's where it starts.
And if they're down to do the rebuild, that just needs to be the message and the mentality. Because then I don't hate the Højlund signing.
100%.
It's just, it doesn't seem like they're fully committing to a rebuild.
No, they're half and halfing it.
Which never...
Well, that's like when they brought Casemiro in on fucking 4 years, 400,000 pounds a week wages.
Tell me what United's identity is right now.
There is no identity.
That's what, like, you got it. Once you have no identity, which is when we were going through Nuno, Conte, Mourinho, it was just time to blow it up. And Kane leaving hurt me, but it could have been the best thing possible to fully do a rebuild.
100%. Also, like I said 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, if Kane would have left, you actually would have been in a better position to win.
The only reason... in reality, yes, but also if you
have to spend the money correctly.
If Levy ever backed a manager with Kane and we brought in and surrounded him with really, really good players, like you see what happened.
I don't know if it was necessarily backing. You made some poor signings.
Yeah. Okay. If we signed the right people players, with the money we spent,
which is easier said than done. Obviously.
Of course. Yeah. And the last thing is there was a time at Dortmund when there was Bellingham, Haaland, and Sancho. And Sancho might have, at a time, been the most exciting prospect of the 3. So you see what the other 2 have done. Like, Sancho has...
He's an incredible footballer. Yeah. His issue is just, like, if he can find one position and be good in that position, I think he can be spectacular. Yeah. I actually think Emile Smith-Rowe is a very similar player to Sancho in that not a true winger, not a true midfielder, kind of just an attacking threat who's best on the half turn in space, who can drive at players and make something happen. And so the question is, how do you get them in that free-flowing role? I feel like we had this conversation about Pogba on a previous episode, where it's like, when you have a player with that kind of skill, how do you get them into a role where they can be their best? And then it doesn't matter if it's not a design-specific part of a formation. You build around that. Yeah. And, I mean, not that Sancho has proven anything that he needs to do that, but I think the right situation, he can get the most out of it.
And I think managers are at a fault of over-tacticking and over-coaching sometimes. But with Sancho, it almost needs to be the correct amount of coaching to know where to put him and how to put a team around him, but then letting him be free once 100%. You find the position for him. But on to third, I think they need, like we were saying, they're in between a rebuild and not a rebuild, and this is we're not in a rebuild because the top 4 race is still on for us technically move. I think Gonzalo Ramos from PSG is not getting any time. If they could bring him in on loan, potentially, then you
play him up through the middle, you're saying, is another option.
Then you have an immediate goal threat who's fairly versatile. He doesn't need to play. Like, it doesn't have to be Højlund or Ramos. Probably in Ten Hag's system, it might need to be. But
yeah, I mean, you can't play Ramos, Rashford, and Højlund. You have 3 very similar profiles.
So I just think, but Højlund, I've said this from the start, I didn't think it was the answer anyway if they want to compete for top 4. Gonzalo Ramos, I don't know why PSG spent the money on him and then brought in Kolomwani. If they're just going to
start... PSG just bought... I think the people who spend at PSG are all not talking to each other, and then they just bring in a whole handful of
Mbappe,
people.
Kolomwani, and
they have, what's his name? Hugo
Ekitike. And then Asensio comes on as a...
he doesn't... Ousmane Dembele, too. I mean, he
doesn't feature as a sub even, so, to me, it seems like I don't know the ins and the outs of PSG that well, but it seems like a spot where you spent all this money for him and you don't play him. Get him out playing football somewhere.
Yeah. My third was, so you spent all this money on Højlund, and it's similar to what I'm talking about with beginning to clear out. United are heavily rumored at the moment with Serhou Guirassy, the striker from Stuttgart.
Yeah. You're saying don't sign him.
Don't spend 20 million euros on a 27-year-old striker that you're going to be stuck on your books for 4 years.
Right.
You just spent 80 million euros on Højlund. You're not winning anything this year. Don't add more to the books.
But similar to the Ramos thing, if Guirassy is 27 and you think he can be the answer, what are they? 5, 6 at the time of recording this? They're 5 points off fourth.
Who?
United.
I think they're 3 points off.
Right. So,
but here's my question.
So if you can bring in
sneaking into fourth place to get into the Champions League, again, not make it out of the group stage and have more bad wages on the books, a better long-term plan for Manchester United?
But that's what I'm saying. They're confused. They don't know their identity and they don't know their plan.
Their identity needs to be not signing 28
Yeah, that could be the Band-Aid.
And it's not like Guirassy's had 5 great years. He's had one flash in the pan moment that he's having. You talk about lightning in a bottle. Yeah. This is lightning in a bottle.
To
an extreme. Yeah, if you look back at his previous years, there's nothing to back what he's done so far this year other than the fact that he has literally caught it in a bottle.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that Stuttgart team as a whole has, and you look at
when Union Berlin came in third or whatever, and a couple years ago Slaughterbeck was on Freiburg when they came. Freiburg, they came in third. It happens. It's a farmers league for a reason,
right? And at the time of recording this, Man United plays tomorrow. And could be out of the Champions League.
They could be out of all of Europe if they don't come in third in their group, which is a real possibility.
If they win, if they make it through the Champions League, and then they're into the knockout stage, they're not going to compete, but they're into the knockout stage, they're competing for top 4. Do you think that could be a better signing?
No.
I agree. I was just curious.
There's just no way.
Because you're not winning the Champions League this year.
My biggest issue with the signing is if you sign another striker 4 months after you spend 80 million euros on Højlund, what is that showing to your fans, to the rest of the team, to Højlund?
It shows you have no fucking plan.
And it shows that you have no confidence in any decision you've made. So it's just, it's psychotic.
It would have been we're in a rebuild, and then they fell into okay, we could compete this year and maybe spend 20 mil to compete this year, but we know in the back we're in a rebuild, and we did everything previously to show that we're in a rebuild, but they didn't. So they're still in this middle ground. It's
almost like United has tricked their fans into believing some of these nonsensical things. I have a friend who's a United fan who said to me, he was like, well, we're only 9 points behind you. And I was like, so if you're 9 points behind us through 14 matches, you're on pace to be 27 points behind us. That's what that means. It doesn't mean you're only
right. They think, I predicted United to finish 8th in my Premier League predictions from before the season. So I've gotten quite the United following in my TikTok comments. And it's so funny because they win one match and then everyone's in my comments, and then they just recently lost to Bournemouth.
Yeah, at home 3-0.
Yeah, and so it's funny that they come in and out of the woodwork like that. But yeah, they're delusional.
Yeah, they lose 3-0 at home, and then we lost that match at Aston Villa, and my buddy's literally FaceTiming me and calling me and chirping me. I was like,
what's the state
did you just lose to 3-0 at home to Bournemouth?
Yeah. You guys lost to the hottest team on the road.
In a very close match. That could have easily gone another way. Anyway, all right, next.
Spend enough time on someone who's not competing for anything.